Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. We've got a great video today with a senior advisor at the SBA, Veronica Pugin. I spoke with Veronica Pugin a few days ago. I asked her as many questions as I could, the questions you've been posting here on YouTube, on our app, with regards to EIDL loans, approvals, reconsiderations, improvements the SBA has done, the current backlog, what to do if they're still waiting for a tax transcript, or if your bank rejected the EIDL funding, how to get that back. And when it comes to EIDL 2.0, what to know about collateral, what the important dates are, whether you're applying for 500K or less, or above 500K, how to determine your eligibility, how the SBA loan officers will evaluate extra collateral and make a decision there, what to do if you're not seeing an EIDL increase request, and other important tips. I'll leave timestamps to the important parts in the description. This is a great video. Hope you can watch until the end. I'll be playing clips of Veronica's answers and giving some commentary along the way, especially emphasizing important points. So thanks for tuning in, liking this video, and subscribing. Let's dive in. We're going to start with her intro and what her role has been over the past few months to make policy improvements.
Thank you, Ryder. Great to have this conversation with you, and love to hear the questions that come from viewers in general, because that helps us at the SBA know where the questions, where the gaps, so we can continue to improve and make sure the proper information's out there. My role particularly, and myself, so I'm Veronica Pugin. I'm a senior advisor in the Office of Capital Access. And since this summer, I've been working in the agency's efforts to provide additional management capacity to these programs. And so, as maybe you and other viewers have noticed, the demand for these programs is unprecedented for the agency and the agency's history. And so that led to some challenges in addressing a backlog, or at the start of the summer, of over 600,000 loan increase applications, customer service, queues, backlogs, bottlenecks, and customers getting their questions answered. And so in the summer, the administrator transitioned, offering additional management capacity to these programs via the Office of Capital Access to support the program's ability to meet the demand. And so my role has been to work on making those improvements. And so that first entailed process improvements, so addressing the review process so that COVID EIDL applications were taking, especially increased applications, were taking months to complete. You and your viewers probably unfortunately have stories about that at the SBA. That was, something that we all wanted to address. And so now it takes several weeks. And we brought down that backlog of over 600,000 loan increase applications. We brought down a backlog of 300,000 grant applications via process improvements. So that was one category. A second category was identifying policy changes and working with different stakeholders to enhance the programs even more, to make them meet
This
the
is
market
the rule
needs,
changes,
especially
by the way,
Delta,
the policy changes.
As the summer went through, small businesses and the economy wasn't quite going in the direction we all would have liked in line with the pandemic. And so those policy changes were announced several weeks ago. And then working on improving the customer service experience. So we more than tripled our field's capacity to get on the phone and work with someone's in their application. We enhanced all the information on the website, FAQs, and rolling out customer service improvements to, again, help customers get their questions answered. So that's been my role since this summer.
So I'll stop there and recap the three main points she just brought up in the little intro, and I thought it'd be important context. Number one, that the EIDL program moved to a different office, her office, where they could find these efficiencies and speed up processing times, basically 10xing approvals. Number two, the new rule changes based on feedback, where they made it so you could use EIDL funds to pay off more stuff. That was a direct response to businesses still struggling, the pandemic still going on. Okay, can we change policies so businesses can use these funds to help them in other ways? The third she mentioned at the end was the customer service improvements, including finally putting out detailed FAQs. I've showed those lots of times. So that's the basis. So now I turn around and start asking her specific questions, and I start with the tax transcript question. And the reason for delay currently is still with the 4506T and the IRS. Can you talk a little bit about where that is now? And because what we hear is if you're still waiting, that's probably the reason why, but would love to hear what, if anything's changed there.
Yeah, so that process has improved since earlier in the program. So there is a data sharing mechanism between the SBA and the IRS to streamline that. And the numbers of transcripts and data points being shared each day is significantly smoother than earlier. To your point on, well, there are still people who might still be waiting because of that. The best course of action for that individual is to e-file. If they e-file, most cases they get the missing piece for their application within several weeks. So that's what we're trying to inform individuals who are stuck in that stage, that you should e-file. That information is also updated on the website. That's new information on the website for if that's the situation you're stuck in.
Oh, so basically e-file or 2019 again, and that'll help speed things up. So just to recap that tax piece, she said e-filing is the reason many of you have remarked already that you can't actually go back and e-file 2019. Feel free to drop in your comments about that. Of course, I can get further clarification on any of these points, any things that you think still need to be clarified. So drop it in the comments if you still have questions on that. So we're going to get into the bank error in a minute, but first she talks about the backlog and how the SBA characterizes backlog. In this case, the SBA is saying they don't have a backlog, so she explains that right now. Their major backlog over the summer, how is it now for loans under $500,000?
Yes, we actually, as of today, I would not characterize it as a backlog. There is a normal stage of inventory. It does take several weeks for each, and that's a good distinction. The loans 500,000 or under, it is a several week cycle. And so it is possible that someone sees in their portal in processing for a couple weeks. And I know, small business need funds today. This is, disaster program. So I'm not saying I like that. I wish it would be even faster, but it is several weeks and there is a normal amount of inventory. But at this point today, we don't have a backlog. We characterize a backlog as people are just sitting there and we're not moving through the process. It's just this pile of applications. That is not the scenario today, fortunately, which is great. The scenario of anyone who's been stuck, right, for more than several weeks is what you're getting at with they're still waiting on the IRS, or they're stuck. There's some other situations we've noticed where someone might be stuck via a document upload issue, and we're getting information out there on that. So I would characterize it as there's no backlog today. It will take several weeks, yes or yes. That's just the course of action. And the percentage of individuals who are not moving through that norm is very small from a percentage standpoint, and those are stuck. And so we're trying to update the FAQs. I would say we're continuously updating the website as we identify issues of what's leading someone to be stuck, and launching some email campaigns to those individuals to let them know, hey, we identified you're unfortunately having this experience. Here are steps you can take to resolve this so your application can move forward.
So that was interesting to hear, the fact that she said the SBA is proactively emailing folks who may be stuck in the process. Now, because so many of you watching have been stuck at some point or another, I would love to hear if at any point you received an email from the SBA kind of guiding you to the next step or reminding you and what that was like. And did it help? Have you been approved because the SBA kind of proactively sent out an email saying, hey, you're still stuck. Don't forget to complete these documents. Okay, now on to the bank error issue before we dive deep into EIDL 2.0 increases and important dates to the Treasury. And it's a complicated process to try to get it back to correct the error. I'm not sure if there's new guidance on what users should do and if that's affecting, let's say, 1% of users, or if you have some insight into how many people that's actually affecting.
Don't have the percentage offhand of how many people that's affecting. In terms of guidance there, I'm pulling up the details. So for someone who has been declined because of that, the best course of action they can do is go through reconsideration. And I'm getting the email right now. As you mentioned, unfortunately, that is a complex situation. It's not something that's a couple clicks away. Unfortunately, we know that this is unfortunately something that's not one person. I don't have the exact number, but they can go through the PDC reconsideration process.
So her advice, go through PDC recons at SBA.gov. If you've had this bank issue funding, you were approved, but the bank sent it back. And as she said here, it is a complex issue. It's not a few clicks solution. So keep that in mind. PDC recons, it will have to be a manual process. If that situation has happened to you, it worked, and you've been approved, would also love to hear as well. Next up, collateral for the EIDL loan amount of over $500K.
If a business is seeking to apply for over $500,000 and they do not have business real estate, they can still apply. They can still obtain this loan. You do not need business real estate to be eligible for a loan of any size. The nuance here is that if the business does have business real estate, that will be used in the collateral process. That will be a lien will be taken on that. The application process asks for personal real estate as well. I know this might be a source of confusion. It asks for that. You're required to report that. Personal real estate will not be taken as part of the collateral process for any loan size. So that's kind of the nuance on collateral and real estate. I think the first question was around processing. Yeah, so the key point there is, so the team has capacity. Again, the good news is what we learned over the summer. There's not a backlog. We're not anticipating future backlogs. And so the team has been receiving the over 500K applications and going through, seeing what are trends, what are the needs, because that review process has an additional layer of complexity. And so the team has been reviewing those in the efforts of once October 8th starts and we can move through these and move towards approvals, a backlog doesn't build up. The approvals will start after October 8th. I would set expectations that on October 8th, there won't be a flood of approvals sent on that day. So that in case anyone, the processing time for a loan of up to $500,000 or an increase up to $500,000 is several weeks. The processing time for a loan or increase over $500,000 is a bit over a month. So if someone submits, so I emphasize to small business owners that are seeking to apply for funds over $500,000 to apply today, because there's a thought, well, I'm not going to get the approval on October 8th, maybe even after that anyways. But by applying today, you get your spot in the queue and you start in the processing motions. The team is reviewing, looking at the information. It's not sitting there in a pile. It's not being approved. It's not being decisioned. But we're trying to prevent a backlog with those. And so you get your spot in the queue. It will take a bit over a month anyways.
So a few important points to recap there. Number one, collateral. Business real estate is not required. Number two, private real estate won't be used as collateral. Lots of confusion there that we've heard and she's heard as well. And number three, on October 8th, to set expectations, there won't be a flood of approvals. Just wait. It may take a month or more from when you apply, but she says you can apply now. It won't hurt. It can only help because you're getting in a queue for those increased requests. At the end of this video, she mentions approximately how many folks have already applied for EIDL increases, which I was surprised by. But you can apply today. Of course, many of you are getting help from our SCIP team with those very limited one-on-one spots. We're doing our best to try to help as many folks as possible go through those 5 forms that are required: schedule of liabilities, personal financial statement, and a few others. In fact, she brings those up in a minute, but I'll leave the link to that one-on-one help in the description because, like she just said, and she repeats it later in the video too, apply now if you are interested in a higher loan amount. She'll also clarify in a minute why you may not see the increased request on your portal.
Sure. So on the COVID-19 website, there's some of the additional documents that are requested for loans of over $500,000. There's a schedule of liabilities to understand the debt, right, of the small businesses. That's where small business shares all their liabilities as a business, not personal debts. So that's one piece. And then another document is a personal financial statement. And that has the assets, the income, the liabilities of the small for the small business to complete. And so all those points will be looked into. One point that kind of before getting to those documents that I see come up a lot is small businesses need to qualify for a certain loan amount. So that comes up a lot. that small businesses go pursue a loan of $1 million, $2 million, $500,000, any size, and are stuck and can't apply for that amount. And that oftentimes is because their eligible loan amount is below what they're seeking to apply for. The eligible loan amount is via the economic injury formula.
So let me stop there because she spends a minute explaining the formula, which we've done a few times, and I will pull up on our dashboard. We have a calculator, so basically she's explaining the formula that you would use to figure out, hey, what are you eligible for? It's fairly straightforward. So when you're logged into your Skip dashboard on the website, when you click Calculate EIDL Loan Increase Potential, click that. You can put in your 2019 revenue. That's what the formula is based on. Any cost of goods sold and any EIDL funding received to date. Then click Calculate your EIDL Loan Potential. In this case, you'd be eligible for $2 million total, because basically they take the 2019 revenue times 2 minus any COGS minus any EIDL funding received to date. So you'd be eligible for another $1.5 million. So she goes into why you may not see a request more funds button on your portal. Number one, you may not be eligible. That's the first reason. Number two, you may still be in progress with your existing EIDL loan increase. And if either of those two cases don't apply to you, but you believe you're eligible for more, you can email COVID EIDL increase request at SBA.gov.
So assuming that the formula, the calculator,
so she explains it a bit more here. Let's take a listen.
And what they've applied for. There are 3 common items to look at. Number one, well, the most common reason that button doesn't show up is because they've already maxed up their eligible loan amount. That comes up a lot. So checking that. Let's say that's not the case. Number 2, if they have a COVID EIDL request in process, so they've applied for a new COVID EIDL loan, or they already applied for an increase and it's in process, if their status is in process, they cannot apply for an increase yet. They have to wait for that request to finish, be approved, assuming it's approved, and then come back to request an increase. So that's another common reason. If neither of those 2 reasons are the scenario, then they should submit their request via email. I'm pulling up the email. Their loan increase request via email.
And like I said, that's the COVID EIDL increase request at SBA.gov. That's the email. If you think you're eligible, you're not in process, you could email them there. We're about to wrap the interview here. I ask one more question regarding the targeted advances, what to do if you haven't gotten an invite. And then she closes with a few thoughts on the EIDL increase and what to keep in mind. There's still the risk of funding being taken away, but I guess the major question that we're getting now is if people are in a low-income area using the SBA tool, but they haven't gotten an invite yet, what can they do proactively to get that 10,000 or the 15 supplemental?
So unfortunately, as of right now, the only way to apply for those grants is to receive the email invite. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of the step there. Yeah, but I would say that's the big, the capping increase. We've had a flood of applications already come in for over 500,000.
She defines what flood of applications means
for anyone
in a minute.
Would benefit from that, apply today. For anyone who'd benefit from that debt piece, that you can wipe out commercial debt, higher interest debt. COVID EIDL terms are quite generous relative to the market, and so using that, and the deferment is extended for 2 years across the board for all loans from disbursement. One nuance as well is that you can use it to pay federal debt, so that's a benefit as well. It can't be used to pay down federal debt, but you can use it to make payments on federal debt. One clarification is there's been confusion around the exclusivity period. Individuals interested in applying for loans over $500,000 thinking that they should wait till after October 8th. The answer is no, you can apply today. It does not hurt you. In fact, it only helps you. And then other individuals interested in loans at $500,000 or under thinking they only have till October 8th to apply for that. No, for loans of $500,000 or under, you can apply before, on, or after October 8th.
Oh, do you have a sense of how many increases have been applied for? Are we talking hundreds of thousands so far, or more, if you have those ballpark numbers?
This is in at least tens of thousands, from when I've last checked. So it's solid, and so that's why I emphasize people go for it, right?
Yeah.
Get your spot on the queue, because it's there, and it's unfortunate that confusion would lead to a decision, right? If a business, it's not right for them right now, or they don't, that's fine, of course. But if a business could benefit from this and confusion is stopping them from applying, that's the thing I want to guard against, that confusion doesn't, limit a small business from accessing these resources.
Absolutely. So I'll leave it there. Those are her final thoughts. She says, go for it. She says tens of thousands have already applied. Don't let confusion be the reason why you don't apply. So hopefully if you think you're eligible, you check on our dashboard or you do some basic math yourself. And if you're interested in that low interest long-term loan to help your business, to grow your business, of course, we're here to help. There's a link in the description. There's links on our website and our app. Most importantly, drop questions in the comments if you have them. Huge thank you to Veronica and her colleagues at the SBA for taking the time to answer your questions. I know it makes a big difference and it's helping millions of small businesses across the country. Most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.